Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I'm lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Zach Ward from SUNY Delhi. Welcome, Coach.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Of course, the State University of New York. It's not a sunny Delhi. It is
It is not.
a nice D3 program up there in upstate New York. So, Coach, your season just wrapped up. Congratulations, you guys made the tournament. And I'm sure you're shifting gears to the recruiting side of things at this point. So, when it comes to recruiting, when are you really starting to talk to players? Kind of what year in high school have you wrapped up your 23s, or are you really focused on your 23s right now? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think for us right now, we're certainly still finishing the 23 class. We start the spring before, so once the 23s wrap up, there will be some overlap in the spring as we finish up 23s and then starting into our 24s. So, right now it's in season, everybody's busy in the fall, so there's not a lot of recruiting events. We're pretty rural, so there's some high school games, some of the local talent. There's some pretty good programs, but high school, we're probably talking the top programs in New York are 90 minutes or so away. So it's a little tougher to get to see those in season, but certainly make it out. There's times obviously we will have an off day, and if I can get out to a game, it's always great to be seen, and especially at the local schools.
Yeah, in terms of like you say, you're a little bit rural there. Um, in terms of where you recruit and the tournaments that you go to see players, whether it's, I don't know how many recruiting events are happening in upstate New York in November, December, but I know down here in Florida and in North Carolina and kind of the southern states and even some of the Midwestern states, there's a bunch of stuff going on. So are there tournaments, whether it's now or in the spring, that are really kind of must hit on your list that you try to get to each year?
Yeah, for sure. I think, the weekend before Thanksgiving, so 2 weekends ago, their EDP and PDA hosted events in New Jersey. So I pulled double duty where I'd spend the morning at one event and do the afternoon at another. That's usually, we're not too far from New Jersey. Right, just right over the border there, not too awfully long. So about 3 hours or so to those events. So, it's great talent, great opportunity to get down there. NEFC in the spring over there outside of the Boston area. That's only about 4 hours or so from us. So that's something to get to in the spring. Long Island has events. Sousa, the club there in Long Island, has something over President's Day, or the first or the end of February. I do plan on heading down to the ECNL regional league in January, as well as the Disney Showcase that weekend after. So there's certainly some events that are certainly check marks. Like, yeah, I have to get out to these, where I've had the most success. I know Castle, the Raleigh events going, or the rally events going on this weekend. Unfortunately, life outside of soccer, closing on a house this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Aren't able to get down to that, but we've gotten certainly some good feedback, some interest, from some players, and certainly going to be reaching out and following up with them, even though I'm unable to attend and see them in person.
Okay. Well, how about camps? Do you guys run your own camps? Do you or your staff work other folks' camps? How does that fit into your recruiting?
Yeah, so I'm only in my second season here. Fall of 21 came in late in the cycle, coming out of, everybody's kind of a hiring freeze with COVID and different things. And there was kind of a slow coaching cycle after, that spring 2021 into the fall of 21. So we didn't really do any camps in my first year, but this past fall we hosted about a dozen, about 12 to 14 players for our first one. We just redid our facilities, so we do have a new athletic complex built on campus here. So that was kind of our first hurrah, bringing in some outside players, some from Connecticut, a good blend of local players as well as off of Long Island. So it was a great event in September. Exhausting. We had a long away trip Saturday, and then we immediately come back and are hosting an event starting at 8:30 the next morning on a Sunday. So, we had some of the players were able to come out for that and help. And so it was a great first event. In the spring, once the weather breaks, we'll be looking to do something as well, looking at those 24s, maybe their first time onto campus, kind of seeing what we're about, as well as some 25s that are starting their recruiting process as well.
Okay. Well, whether it's at a tournament or a camp or high school game or wherever you may be, what makes up your kind of hierarchy of things that you're looking for in a player, whether it's on the field stuff or off the field stuff?
I think every coach wants the player that's 5'10" and super every that all those players draw up all the coaches' attentions. But for me, I recruit soccer players. I like players that are invested in the game and are passionate about the game and aren't just players that play soccer. I certainly think there's a difference in the two statements there. I'm big on work rate and working how hard do we work on the ball, how hard do we work off the ball, in possession when we're defending those types of things. And it's real easy to figure out, okay, this person works extremely hard. They lost the ball. Are they making their recovery run? Or are they kind of having a 10-minute sob session and be like, well, I'm the worst player. And, I don't, we make mistakes as players and, we got to, we're not perfect as coaches either, but, we make a mistake. We got to get over it. And, so certainly see that within the run of play. Everybody what we're at. We're not going to get, the world-class, player right now. We're Division III. We're a smaller school. We've only been, D3 for 2 years. So, I'm looking for players that want an opportunity and, finally getting them on the phone or talking to them in person and, kind of walking through, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I certainly, those are some of the boxes that we like to check during the recruiting process, or at least in that initial evaluation of a player.
Okay. Well, one question that us parents always have first off is, okay, what's this going to cost me? But I'm not holding you to hard numbers here, but can you
Yeah,
just give me an overview of uh, what it costs to go there, what the financial aid situation looks like, obviously from an academic standpoint without athletic scholarships, but just give some rough idea of what that looks like.
sure. Unfortunately, we're Division III. I can't give anybody any money because they're fantastic soccer players or anything like that. So we are a public institution. We are part of the state of New York university system, like you mentioned at the beginning here. So we do have in-state, out-of-state tuition. Our out-of-state, packaged, we're talking maybe only $3,000 or $4,000 more than an in-state, which I understand $3,000 and $4,000 is still $3,000 and $4,000. But you're comparing that to some of those higher, private schools where the tuition is, 3 times of that, and you're not into the room and board or anything. So an out-of-state student right now, we're packaging before any type of merit aid, any academic scholarships, is about 25, roughly, give or take, depending on your major, that has certain extra fees tacked on for labs and things. An in-state student is probably anywhere between 20,000 and 21,000. That's room and board included, tuition, fees, those types of things. Freshmen are allowed to have cars on campus and things like that too. So they're usually not our parking pass and things like that. It's not crazy ridiculous. But that is also, all of that is included in those two numbers.
Okay, that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. I'm sure there's a lot of folks who aren't familiar with Delhi, New York, especially folks down here in Florida may not be familiar with that. So, can you give me some awesome things about the school that maybe I'm not going to learn just by clicking around the website?
Yeah, I think campus is certainly a place to see in person. We are built in the Catskill Mountains. We are built on a hill. So, our athletic facilities built at the top of campus. So we overlook campus, we overlook the town of Delhi, we overlook the Catskill Mountains. So right now it's not the nicest as the winter and the leaves are off the trees, but during the fall there, October, September, October, even in the first part of November, the leaves in the backdrop is pretty unbelievable. And I'm out there and I can't believe I get to do this, for a career. So it's certainly nice to see and being able to train and play. The campus itself, it's not super gigantic. We're probably about 3,000 undergraduate students. There is a good portion of commuters, but we also have a good bit of on-campus living and housing and things. So a lot of women's soccer specifically are from out of the area, coming from Long Island or the capital region of Albany. We do have probably 4 or 5 local players couple that are from in town as well. So it's not a gigantic campus. Like we said, student body's not large. So once you get to your nitty-gritty classes in your major, you're talking maybe 12 to 15 students, so that that professor to student ratio is pretty good. Anytime I reach out to a professor for some reason about a particular player, they know exactly who we're talking about. It's usually not give me a second to figure out, or get them on they know right away, which is super good. As for me as a student, I always liked the professor knowing who I was, and having that one-on-one type of rapport with them. So anytime you need help, their office hours are usually pretty wide open, and yeah, come in, let's get the help. We want you to be successful.
Well, speaking of that success in the classroom, you know, obviously it's tough for students, new students especially to college, to really balance the sports and the academics. So specifically for your women's soccer players, really, how do they balance that, and what kind of support systems does the school have in place to help out?
Yeah, I think for me as a coach, I don't mandate a lot of their time. I always, talking to recruits on the phone, and they ask what's a general day look like. On a non-game day, you're probably with me less than 2 hours. I'm a less is more coach at times. If we can come in and play and train for 90 minutes, let's get in and let's get out. And the game we play is only 90 minutes long. My philosophy as a coach, we don't need to train for 2.5 hours. There's other things, that class, the homework, meeting with professors, those types of things certainly take priority. Adding, the weight room type of thing. If it's important to you, you'll find time to do it. So, there's 24 hours in a day. We teach we teach the players in the program, how do you manage, soccer, non-game day, we're training from 4 to 6. You're from class from 9 to 12. So you've got all these other hours. How are you utilizing those? We've got free writing labs, we've got free tutoring, we've got those types of things set up where if you're unsuccessful in the classroom, it's because you haven't gone the extra mile. Not even really going the extra mile. There's so many resources there for you. We just have to ask as a student, and not even as the athlete. There's just this, across the board for any student on Delhi's campus. There's, the professors are always, reaching out and saying, hey, we have something called a starfish system where students aren't doing particularly well. They send out a notification that's a, low test score, attendance, those types of things. I get it as a coach, their academic advisor gets it, our athletic director gets it. So there's all these people that are making sure these people and these students, these athletes are successful on campus, which, I take a lot of pride in not having a lot of attrition because of academics. As you go back to kind of the recruiting piece, I certainly looking at academically inclined, student athletes where they understand, soccer's not getting me, I'm probably not going professional or playing professionally, or, soccer is not going to be a gigantic part of my life in the next 10, 15 years, where yes, you will still probably be involved in some way, but that academic piece, what's the academics going to do? And, if I don't do that, soccer goes away at Delhi. And, that's something we've preached in the 2 years that I've been here.
That's great. Well, you kind of answered what my next question was to be about, what a typical day looks like, or typical week looks like. So in terms of your in-season game schedule, kind of what's that cadence usually look like? How much do you guys have to travel in terms of conference, non-conference, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we'll look at it as a regular training day, like we said, probably anywhere no more than 2 hours. So we focus a lot on fitness. So we come in, trainings at 4, we'll do our dynamic warm up 4 to 4:15, and then we do some type of fitness. Depending on where we're at in the season, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 30 minutes. We're somewhere in that range where we do it every single day. It didn't matter, leading up to our conference final that Monday, we did 25 minutes of hard fitness because we were off Sunday. I was giving them off Tuesday again, and then we were preparing for our final. So we went pretty hard. We're talking early November. We're still doing fitness to maintain that sharpness and things. Then we do some type of technical activity, so passing, receiving, carrying, something in that realm. Then we would train a particular topic, so maybe playing through the middle third, using our six to switch the point of attack, those types of things. And then we always end with some type of play, either 11 aside or 3v3, or sorry, three team games, those types of things. And that works for me. Obviously not saying that's the only way or the right way to do it, but that's what as an assistant, we've kind of done that in my past stops. Super successful there. Moving into the head coaching here, I brought it over. In terms of the fitness, it's also, we don't use it as a penalty. For me, I never want fitness to have this negative connotation to it, where they're unlikely as players to do it if I prescribe it to them in the off season. Oh, coach is punishing us. He's making us do, this, and this. So, I never want to have that. And I think the players have really run with that when I gave about 10 players extra fitness to do in the season, where we sat down and said, I think if we commit to doing this over the next 4 weeks, there's 2 times a week, we're going to be better as a program and you're going to be better as players. And some of them was 2 of them were captains, some of them were underclassmen as well. So I think they ran with it as well. What was the first part of that question?
No, it was a good answer. Well, I'm just asking about your travel and conference,
right.
non-conference stuff.
So our conference, we're in the North Atlantic Conference, so we do have 2 divisions, an East and a West, which our West division is mostly our New York schools, and then a school in Vermont, where our East division, we are introducing a team out of the Boston area, as well as teams in the state of Maine. So we are pretty spread out in terms of our travel, but we only, moving into 2023, we are only going to play 1 cross division game. So we do travel next year in 23, and then 24 we would host 2 of the teams. We're an ever-changing conference here. I don't think there's, since 2017, I was an assistant from 17 to 19 at another conference school in the East. And from 17 to now, there's always been either teams coming in or leaving. There's always been some type of change. So, the conference is always looking to expand. I think that seems to be the name of the game in college athletics at any level, is, expansion and teams moving, just kind of seeing what's the right fit for them. So, there's, the kids like traveling. They say they hate it, but then at the same time, they love the long road trips and bonding, and that's the stuff that they like to, that's what they remember. Hey, remember the time we had to travel 14 hours back from northern Maine to New York? Yeah, I remember that. And then you remember when you forced us to go to class, that when we got in at 4 a.m. So no, I didn't force you to do it. That was the NCAA that said you had to do it. So but that's the stuff they talk about, and they'll probably bring it up the next time they talk to me. Coach, why did you make it? I didn't make us do anything. That was the conference scheduled that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team and the soccer side of things. So is there a roster size you're trying to hit every year that you find is ideal?
Yeah, so I'm able to roster 33 players, and that's based on our uniform situation and gear that we have right now. Of that, 4 would be goalkeepers, so that would be what, 29 field players. Ideally for me, I would keep 33 if it was the right 33. We don't have a huge coaching staff, so it's me and a part-time assistant. So, managing 33 players is certainly an undertaking. This year we started with 29 in preseason. Some players, decided for whatever, to pursue other things coming out of preseason. Certainly have a relationship with them. So we went with 27 this year. So, 27 is a good number. 2 of those were goalkeepers. I would certainly like to, have the 3 to 4 goalkeepers, just you have 1 injury, now you're only down to 1. So, I think, managing 27 is still, you have 25 field players there. So there's something written on my whiteboard is, we might not like our role, but we must make an impact in our role. And that comes with, we sit down at the end of preseason. This is how I see your role for the year. Are we able to, accept that? And if not, okay, what do you need to do as a player to have an increased role? And, I think, again, that's something that I brought to the table as a coach over the last 2 years, and there hasn't been many headaches where people were complaining about, playing time or anything like that, because they understand, right? I'm going to be given an opportunity every single day in training to show that I should be in the first 11. And, if I'm not in the first 11 as a player, now what do I need to do? I didn't do it this week. What do I need to do in the next week to get my name back there in the first 11? And that's also something that we've changed, this starting this year is we don't have starters, we don't have reserves, we have players in the first 11 and impact players as our substitutes. And it's all goes back to that mentality thing where when I come into the game, I'm going to make an impact. It's not that I'm not a starter, it's that these are just the players in the first 11. Would you rather, we have this conversation all the time in the program, would you rather start and play 5 minutes or come in off as an impact player and play 85 minutes? And so, well, I was a starter, but you only played 5 minutes. Oh, you're right, coach. So, that's kind of just the mentality thing. And I think it's certainly the players are accepting of that. They're running with it. They've made the program their own with, my guidance. I think we're very player focused, player driven with, the guidance of the coach, of the coaching staff, as myself and my assistant.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question was you mentioned a little there, but how would you describe your overall style of coaching and the team style of play?
Yeah, I don't take myself too seriously as a coach. And this is obviously my job. I'm super passionate about the game and and the players' development and those types of things. But I'm super quirky. I don't take myself too seriously in training. I'm not the tallest person, and the players certainly make sure that I know that. And like for the last 32 years, it's nothing new, right? And it's so we rib each other when it's appropriate. There's a time to train, there's a time that we can be a little bit more relaxed and those types of things. And it's identifying that as a coach, and here's the line. We can toe the line. We can make sure when we're able to flip the switch when we need to. And I think players certainly enjoy the environment. There's no one's walked away from the team because they don't enjoy being a part of women's soccer, or they don't like what's going on, or those types of things. And so I give a lot of input to the team. Okay, what do we think for training today? What do we think, what's our thoughts going into the weekend? But at the end of the day, I'm making the decisions. I'm the one that has to make those calls. But there's certainly player input into those decisions.
Okay. Well, in terms of, the off season, now as the regular season's over, off season, I kind of classify that as mid-November till next August, the whole thing. What will that look like for your players in terms of what they're doing now and in the spring?
Yeah, so once our season's done, it's all about let's finish out the semester, right? Let's make sure we're staying in class, we're getting our assignments in, we're prepping for finals. So right now there's next to zero soccer going on, other than maybe us hosting some recruits here before the end of the prospective students before the end of the semester. I will give them a winter workout or a holiday workout. So we do have a January term, so they won't be coming back until the end of January. So middle of December to the end of January, they'll have, a workout, mostly some core, some small technical training, a little bit of lifting. And then they report back at the end of January. We'll have our team lift. So end of January through our spring break, which is usually the third week of March. They'll team lift twice a week, and then they'll have a third day where kind of an individual, or where can you place it in the week. Fortunately, D3, however you want to look at it, I can't mandate it. I can't stand there outside the gym and check boxes to see who's coming and who's going. Again, it comes down to that mentality of, if it's important to you all, if we want to get better as a program and make it back to the national tournament like we did in 22, are we going to commit to doing it? And then our spring season will start that week after we come back from spring break. And that, D3, we get 16 athletic related contacts over a 5-week period. So once we start, we've got 5 weeks to finish, and one of those 16 can be a play day. up to 180 minutes in the day. So depending on what weather is like, can we get outside right away? You know, last year we did our first 3 weeks, we just did futsal and did some fitness inside in our, you know, basketball arena. And then the last 2 weeks we got outside and we're training. Our field was ripped up as it was getting ready to, you know, get the turf field and things laid down. So we trained in some of our other auxiliary space and some of our other training spaces. So our spring looked very different this in the spring of 22 than it'll look like in the spring of 23. But you know, it's all about really maintaining, you know, our fitness, sharpness. We're not really reinventing anything, or in the spring season we will be adding a couple spring players to the roster, that'll be, you know, adding them and getting them, you know, up to speed with what's going on in Delhi women's soccer land here. So we're really looking forward to adding those 3 players right now. So, you know, really fun stuff going on. Unfortunately, this kind of dead period in the off season between now and our spring season, it's a lot of recruiting and a lot of waiting to get back together.
Well, for sure. Well, you know, we've talked about a lot of different things here, and I always like to end these with what didn't we talk about, or what else would you like us to know, whether it's about recruiting, the college process in general, soccer, the team, the school, whatever you got, I give you the last word.
Yeah, I think, you know, I say usually in all of our phone calls with recruits, as at the end of the day, we're all about finding the best fit for them as a player. As much as I would like every single great player to come to Delhi, you know, it's a puzzle putting the pieces together. You know, soccer is not just the only piece of the puzzle. It's, you know, location, it's cost, it's opportunities, it's distance from home. And, you know, going through that, I recommend every player to get out and see as much as possible. That's the only way, you know, they're going to know how, you know, what is their best fit. I think that's kind of the buzzword too, is I'm looking for my right fit. I'm looking for the best fit. You know, with this transportal era, you see so many names coming in there every single day, and it's, well, they didn't find the right fit. Maybe Delhi's the right fit. And, you know, I think what we offer here, my philosophy as a coach is, you know, I recruit to play. I have no interest in recruiting a player to sit for 4 years. I can guarantee an opportunity, you know, an opportunity to show that you should be in that first 11, the best 11 play. You know, not only is the recruiting process the puzzle, but, you know, putting a team together, the 11 together as a puzzle. What's the best 11 pieces? How do they get put together? And what's that system look like? It's, you know, we played 3 different systems this year. We finally settled on a 4-3-3. I usually don't like playing a 4-3-3. That's to me, it's super vanilla, but we ran with it this year. We were super successful. We won 7 straight games once we committed to playing that way. So it must have worked. It's not pats on back for me. That was pats on backs for players, you know, committing to doing what needed to be done. With another saying in women's soccer land here is we all have a job to do, right? Let's go to work. Our big hashtag is take care of business. No, we have a job to do every single game. Let's go take care of business. And you know, I think 2022 was super successful for us. Only our 2nd year as a D3 program. Looking forward to year number 3. I know how exciting things are. I know how great the program is. I'd love to have a conversation with anybody that has interest. And as you can tell, I like talking about Delhi and what we can offer. But at the end of the day, I'll go back to it's all about finding the right fit. Is it Delhi or is it someplace else? I just want people to keep playing the game that I'm passionate about and that they're passionate about.
Awesome. Well, great last words, Coach. We wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you'll get back to that national championship tournament next year. And if you're at the coaches convention in Philly, be sure to stop by my table, Discover College Soccer, and say hi. Love to meet you in person, and thanks for being here.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.